All right, let's go ahead and begin the meeting. Good evening. It's Tuesday, September 7th. This is a Finance Committee special and virtual meeting at 6 p.m. And would the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, of course. Vice Mayor Burt,
Here.
Chair Cormack,
Here.
Councilmember Filseth, 2 present.
Thank you so much. And now we move on to oral communications, where members of the public may speak to any item not on the agenda. As a reminder, tonight's sole action item has to do with an emission reduction agreement with the Integrative Organization of Oaxaca Indigenous and Agricultural Communities. So if any member of the public would like to address the Finance Committee on a topic that is not that, please go ahead and raise your virtual hand in Zoom. You may also press *9 on your phone. Just checking with the clerk. Do you see any requests for oral communications this evening?
No, it seems that there are no public speakers.
All right. With that, we'll move on to our action item. And does staff have a presentation for us this evening?
We do, Chair Cormack. Good evening, Vice Mayor Burt. Tonight, Utilities, Dean Batchelor, Utility Director. Tonight, Utilities and the Advisor Commission, UAC, is asking the Finance Committee to make a recommendation to the City Council to adopt approving an emission reduction agreement with our sister city of Oaxaca. And then also to delegate the city manager to authorize to, on behalf of an agreement confirming it, which is an attachment B in your packet tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Micah. Is Micah on? Sorry, I can't see.
I am on. Can you see me or hear me?
Michael Babbitt, our resource planner, who put this report together tonight. So I'm going to go and turn it over to him.
Great. Thanks, Dean. Good evening, City Council members. My name is Micah Babbitt, and I'm a resource planner with the Resource Management Division of the Utilities Department. And together with my colleague, Carla Daly, who's not able to make the meeting tonight, we manage the city or the utilities carbon neutral gas plan. Under that gas plan, we have approximately 5 different relationships with environmental brokers, which we use to make transactions to purchase carbon offsets. And tonight, I'm going to be sharing with you an opportunity we have to make an agreement with the Integrative Organization of Oaxaca Indigenous and Agricultural Communities, which I'll refer to by ICICO for short. And I just have a few slides to walk through with you to familiarize yourself with the transaction opportunity. Is someone managing the slideshow? I see my slide up, but if you could advance to the next slide. Thank you. Yeah, so just a little bit of background. While we're evaluating a new agreement to use with ICICO, we do have a relationship with them from back in 2017, shortly after we established our carbon neutral gas plan. We made a one-time purchase of 17,000 carbon offsets from ICICO, and they reached out to us early 2021 with an opportunity to purchase some additional offsets from some of their forestry projects in San Juan Luachao in Oaxaca. And so that's what we're evaluating now. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of specifics on the actual transaction. As I mentioned, we're looking at 24,000 metric tons of carbon offsets, which is approximately 15% of the utilities annual requirement. And these are being offered at a purchase price of $9.50 per ton. Since implementing the carbon neutral gas plan in late 2017, we've purchased nearly 600,000 tons of carbon offsets at an average price of $6.40 per ton. We issued an RFP in July of this year and received bids ranging in prices ranging from $7.70 up to $11.30 per ton. And we transacted at just under $8 per ton. You'll note that our average purchase price is $6.40, which I have here In the last year and a half, we've seen prices ticking up slightly. And so in estimating kind of what this transaction would mean to any additional cost on our budget, we're estimating that it's approximately $35,000 in additional costs working with ICICO as opposed to working through our brokers that we have agreements with. And this translates to approximately $1 additional cost for the average residential customer bill. And it is a one-time purchase, so it's not a recurring thing, though the carbon neutral gas program is recurring. Next slide, please. And so we wouldn't have brought this opportunity to you all if we didn't think that there were additional reasons to be excited about the transaction. And one of the reasons we've worked with ICICO in the past is that we think that these dollars go further in their local economy, and we want to demonstrate our commitment to them being a sister city. And so in their words, they've indicated that these projects have brought greater awareness to the local community around maintaining the ecosystem. And then they've pointed to how the revenue from these sales have helped fund various things such as transportation and equipment for local schools. And we've had a lot of support from some community members in making this transaction in the past, and have showed a lot of excitement for this transaction that we have the opportunity to make now. That's kind of my final slide. My last slide is just restating the recommendation that Director Batchelor gave at the start. So I'll leave it here, and I'm happy to take any questions or hear any comments that council members might have. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Director Batchelor and Mr. Babbitt. We'll turn now to members of the public. And if anyone would like to provide public comment on this item, you can raise your virtual hand in Zoom or press *9 on your phone. And we'll wait a moment to see if there's any public comment. We welcome Councilmember Filsa.
Sorry to be late.
No worries. And I'm not seeing any requests for public comment. Would the city clerk confirm that, please?
Yes, it seems we have no requests to comment for this item.
Thank you. Thank you to the clerk's office. And I'll bring it back to my colleagues for questions and comments on the proposal before us this evening. Vice Mayor, would you like to go first?
Sure. So I don't have many questions. It's an informative report and really a program that I think does accomplish multiple objectives through one set of actions. When we look at carbon offsets in general, I've been somewhat of a skeptic because it's a bit of a underregulated Wild West market currently. It's likely to become more regulated in the coming years as demand goes up for it. But right now, we're often kind of flying blind on the totality of the impacts of offsets that we may purchase through brokers. In this case, as Micah pointed out, this is a project that not only has the focus benefit on carbon reductions, but has all the other elements of sustainable practices, of other environmental benefits, of rebuilding the natural habitat and watershed, of economic benefits and social benefits. And I think that really makes this program stand out as something that we can get behind. And as we all know, that we're doing these as really a bridge while we're pursuing our own carbon reductions through our 80/30 program, which is going to be really challenging to achieve, and not enough in all likelihood. And so I've really been thinking that the offsets are not only a bridge until we achieve 80/30, but they also may continue to perform an important role as we look beyond 80-30 and looking at how can we help draw down carbon, which is looking increasingly necessary. And then lastly, on the cost part, as Micah pointed out, that the market trend is for increasing costs. Estimates, as I think, are looking at it at least the neighborhood of a 5-fold increase by 2030. What pace that'll happen and whether it's where in that kind of a range it falls remains to be seen. But it's certainly a market that is seeing a lot greater demand as voluntary offsets are being embraced by corporations and cities, and so to be able to get this many constructive, identifiable benefits that we really understand on a firsthand basis, I think makes this program really stand out. $1 a year or 8 cents a month, whichever way you want to cut it, is not a big deal. And I will add, just in this opportunity to get something back out on the table that I've been bringing up in the SCAP, which is that as we look in this community on what measures we may do on a mandatory basis spread across all of our ratepayers or through other mechanisms, we also have got a big portion of our community who has demonstrated over the years a willingness to voluntarily participate in environmental initiatives. When we had the Palo Alto Green program, right? Dean, that was it in, yes. Which is a voluntary offset on our electricity before we had a carbon neutral electricity supply. I think we were like 3 times higher participation rate than any other city in the country. And that was before today's even higher consciousness and concern and commitment in our community toward addressing climate change. I think that we should be really looking at reestablishing some form of that program that enables residents to have a premium on their utility bills voluntarily that would be dedicated toward a series of discretionary carbon reduction initiatives that we could have. And I suspect that we'd have a very strong uptake in that program. And so I just wanted to use this occasion as an opportunity to get that back out on the table and be thinking about that. But overall, thanks for the report, and thanks to the UAC for its review, and for staff for setting this up, and for folks like Bob Winslow who have been championing this. I think it's a real good program. Thanks.
Thanks, Vice Mayor Burt. Councilmember Filsa, do you have comments or questions on this item?
Nope. Looks pretty cut and dried.
All right, then. It's close to cut and dried for me. I echo my colleagues' appreciation of the work that's been put into it, and the fact that it's for a sister city, and that we already have experience with ICICO. But I guess the one question I would ask is, did staff contemplate funding the delta, so the $35,000 or so, from some other source? For example, we are, if we go ahead and move forward with this, we're deciding to spend a little bit of extra money for something that has co-benefits. If we were to decide to fund that some other way, what sources would we have available? Is there still a city council contingency fund?
So within the program, we have funding approved to spend up to $19 per metric ton. And we essentially bill it to our customers as we need to collect revenue to cover the cost of the program. And so we have authority to spend more than we have been on the program. We haven't had to use that. So as far as raising additional funding, the mechanism that we're using to raise funds to administer this program isn't changing.
And just to add to that, Kylene is the Administrative Services Director. You are right, Chair Cormack. If the council so chose, yes, we could use, since this is ratepayer funding, and this is a choice to make this investment from a purchasing perspective, we could choose to use another pot of money such as the council contingent account, which has, I want to say, maybe $100,000 in it, if I remember correctly. Or if you recall, council set aside a $500,000 reserve, or roughly $500,000 reserve for priority projects and programs as part of the FY 2022 budget. So staff could administratively make sure that those funds paid for this through some budget actions on the back end, if that was the will of the committee and the council.
Okay, thanks very much, Director Nose. I did just think it's important for us to surface that, as we look carefully at our rates, and I do feel that this amount is within a reasonable amount to pay for these offsets. And certainly there are some of the other benefits that were mentioned, which we can't quantify economically. All right, would either of my colleagues like to make a motion?
I'd be glad to move the staff recommendation.
Second.
Excellent. And Vice Mayor Burt, would you care to speak to it further?
No, I think I've covered my points.
And Councilmember Philstep?
I'm good.
All right, so then we'll go ahead in alphabetical order and vote on the motion. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Vice Mayor Burt?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. And Councilmember Philstep?
Yes.
Excellent. That passes 3-0. Thank you to staff. And again, thank you to the Utilities Advisory Commission for spending time on this. We now move to our next item, which is future meetings and agendas. And since this one was relatively straightforward, I'm sure you have more information to share with us, Director Nose.
I do. Thank you, Chair Cormack. Again, Kylie Nose, Administrative Services Director. The committee has some significant projects coming up over the coming meetings. So the next meeting is currently scheduled for September 21st, where staff does expect to have a full agenda. We have recently received our CalPERS actuarial reports, so staff will transmit those to the full committee for their review and the public. And ultimately we'll do analysis as we follow it through the long range, but we do like to get those reports out as quickly as possible. Another referral that staff expects to bring back is associated with the potential November 2022 ballot measure. So that's expected to come back on the 21st for this committee's review as well. And lastly, if the committee recalls that there were some fees and charges associated with fire services that the council had approved as part of budget actions from a cost recovery perspective. And so staff does expect that will be coming ideally on September 21st. Following that 21st meeting, and depending on what items are able to be considered and moved through at that date, we do expect another meeting on October 5th with any residual carryover if that agenda ends up being a little bit too heavy or items fall. And we also do expect additional items. Staff's working on a parking update that was expected to be heard by the committee in August, but has been delayed. And so staff is doing their best to bring that as soon as possible. And then lastly, as we continue to move through kind of the ballot measure aspect of things, we do expect future touch points with this committee, but pending the committee and council's actions, the timing of that is a little bit unknown. So just stay tuned on that aspect. And then as we approach the end of the calendar year, staff is already hard at work, and this committee can expect to see reports associated with those year-end kind of closure aspects, such as the comprehensive annual financial report, which we've now actually renamed to the annual comprehensive financial report as an industry standard, as well as future planning with our long-range financial forecast.
Okay, so the one thing I just wanted to follow up on was does the ballot measure information go to council first, or it comes to us first and then you take it back to council?
It will come to the committee first on September 21st, and then we'll go to the council after that.
Okay, great. Do either of my colleagues have any questions about future meetings or agendas?
No.
Okay, Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all so much and good night.